Welcome to Ren Behind the Practice. I'm Sophie Campisi. I'm a holistic business strategist and startup expert, and I spend a lot of my time in conversation with practitioners, coaches, and healers about the behind the scenes of their businesses. What I started noticing is that some of the most honest, important conversations about building a practice were happening quietly, one-on-one, behind the scenes, and often in isolation. Most practitioners are incredibly skilled at the work they do with their clients, but very few of us were ever taught or trained in how to build a successful startup business. And suddenly we've been left to figure it out on our own. This podcast exists to bring those conversations forward, the dreams, the uncertainty, the highs and lows, the recalibrations, and the messy middle. My hope is that by normalizing these conversations, we can soften the stigma, feel less alone, and start closing the gaps together. Today's guest is Julianna Rose. Julianna Rose is here on a divine mission to raise the vibration of earth and awaken souls to the infinite truth of oneness consciousness. As a best-selling author, mystic, spiritual wealth architect, and transformational leader, she is pioneering a new paradigm, activating soul well, higher awareness, and the evolution of human consciousness. Julianna Rose, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up and having this conversation with me today.
It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm happy to be here.
Before we look behind the scenes today, can you share with us a little bit more about the work that you do?
The first sentence that seems to capture audiences is, I shift worlds. And how I do that is by uncovering who the actual whole human is, with the heart and the soul intertwined and merged with the actual body. Now, that's a mouthful within itself, because we as human beings are very complex. We're not just the body. We are not just the emotions. We are not just the brain. We're not just the heart. We are, if you were to dissect us all the way down to the beginning of our creation, we are light, sound, and frequency. So I bring people back into who they are, their purpose, why they are here, so that they don't have so much disconnection, dissatisfaction, and lack in life. And they start to really feel what life is in abundance.
Is the main way that you work with people one-on-one?
I love to work one-on-one. Now, there's a lot of people who say it's too time consuming, but there is no time. And I can really deep dive with an individual. Now, I've worked with several group situations, and sometimes you can really get into those deep conversations with individuals, but not fully into the depths of a person when you're one-on-one. I'm really good at the one-on-one because people can really get a sense of who they are with me, because I create a trusted, sacred space. Yes, I do love the one-on-ones, and I don't care what people say about, oh, you need to do, bigger groups to make more money and stuff. That's not who I am. My identity is everything of who I'm creating. And I don't need to go by what other people say just because it's a trend.
The clients that you have now, that you've had in the past, where have you connected with them, nurtured those relationships before they became clients?
Usually they know me from somewhere else beforehand. So there's an already built trust, which is super, super important for me. And that's my main goal always, is how can I build trust with this individual first? And that's really important in this world right now that we're living in. So much chaos, and there's scams right and left, that I find that to find a trusted human being is one that really has an open heart, and they're really leading by their own authenticity. So they will naturally gravitate towards me because they can feel that.
Trust is the most important thing there is when it comes to not just business building, but sustainable business building, like the
Yeah.
kind that you're talking about, the kind that I'm talking about, the kind that I work with people on to build. It's more than just to have someone become a client. It's to fill and fulfill the mission, the dharma, to be in integrity, to be building something that lasts, again, on so many fronts, that is sustainable, not just financially, but emotionally, energetically. Some of these things that aren't always talked about in the greater conversation of business that are highly relevant and vital to our conversations about business, because those are things that matter for people like me, for people like you, for the people that are listening to this, for the people that are in this community. And yeah, so I totally, everything that you're saying, it's so important. And it's harder than ever to build trust in today's landscape because of so much broken trust that's happened when it comes to, service providers and online service providers. And for often what's, thought about of work like hours, when you can't take a clear before and after, and there's not something super tangible that someone can hold and touch and feel. And we are navigating the reality of that. And I think that something else that I was thinking about when you were talking about, there are a lot of really, really not just well-meaning, but really authentic people in our industry who are the real deal, who are really doing the good type of work, but still have yet to figure out how to fully translate that into the business side. That tends to be where the big breakdown comes of, like, how do we continue to translate what we know we are and we be as souls in our work and everything that it stands for, and how good we are with the clients that we work with? How do we continue to translate that energy signature, vibration, whatever you want to call that, into the business fully and completely? Because until we can do that, it's not just that things aren't working, but it's hard for us. It's energetically difficult on our nervous systems when we feel that disconnection and we're not able to, like, fully pull that all the way through.
Yeah, I agree. It's I have a different take in that people want to build these really big empires, and I'm not certain that all of us are meant to do that. You know, there's something to say about those individuals who do have small businesses, and it's okay. We don't give ourselves enough credit when it comes to how far we've actually come along in our own um, businesses and what we've created. We have this higher thing, whatever it is, we put on a pedestal, and it's never attainable because it really doesn't match who we are, our true identity, right? And then we're always going to be searching for that little thing dangling on the chain, that little rabbit's foot, whatever it is. So we need to come back to our true humanness and find in business, in everything that we do, and stop chasing the invisible artificial connection that is now going to be a test for us with artificial intelligence coming into the game even stronger. We are going to have to really find our own sustainability within our platforms, and more people are craving community. So this is where it's going to lead us, is what can I let go of and what is really valuable for me in business, in family, in my relationships. That's what's going to be really important.
Absolutely. I wish I knew this statistic off of the top of my head. You might know it, but it's something like 95% of our economy is made up of small businesses. Like, I think it's that high. Like, don't quote me on that, you or anyone listening, but it's something significant. Maybe it is 95%, but exactly what you said is so true. And I believe it to my core, which is this is part of, the shadow side that I see as a professional in my pocket of the world, someone who is a business startup expert and strategist. There are so many people out there who are selling one size fits all business strategies because they don't actually understand the mechanics of how to build a startup. And it's created it's been so harmful, especially to our industry, I think, because it's very confusing. It has people not being able to really get the support that they need to build. Because I know what I know is true from my expertise lane is there is no one size fits all, but there is a process for business building that you have to use, but it's all about going through the process to build the business model that is right for you. And not just you, also your people. And this is something I've talked about with several people on this podcast of there are two components that make a business model the right fit. One is you and your preferences as the owner and the practitioner. That's vitally important. And then everything else is that your people, the people you're here to serve, are at the center of every single thing that you create. That's part of what makes it magical. The combination of that and the alchemy of that is what has you create, like the sweet spot business that's sustainable for you. Again, not just financially, but energetically, emotionally, feels good on your nervous system. It works. It's simple. It's clear. It's cohesive. And so much of the business advice out there is people just selling a one size fits all. Well, no, you need a high ticket offer. You don't, unless your people work for that price point. All that matters. There are some pockets of the world where you do need a higher price point because that's going to resonate with your clients. So it's not to say a high ticket offer is bad or wrong. You just don't need one if it doesn't work for your people. All that matters is that you understand how to figure out what does work, then how to translate that into the right business model. And everything that you're saying, I believe it, I know it, is no, we don't all need big businesses. There's going to be lots of different size. We need the one that works for us and the one that works for our people. And if we understood more how to do that, how to translate our gifts, our brilliance, who we be, our karma, our dharma, whatever you want to call it, translate that really well into a business model. Of course, we would all be, I think, very fulfilled and thriving with the work that we do, and it would feel a little bit less clunky and a little bit less draining. But we haven't yet really collectively been shown how to do that. And there's so much collective pressure and conversation around doing it one way. Everyone needs a big business. You need to make 20K months and you need all of this. And it's just like, it's not true. If that's what's there for you, sure. But it's not going to be that for everyone.
No, and I find that we are working with old models, and we're trying to scramble around through those old models to find that newness. Listen, the earth is shifting. We've got two choices. We've got the old and the new. Figure out where you're going to go energetically. That's where most people are lacking, is they don't know where their energy is. They're kind of one foot in one spot, one foot in the other, and it's splitting them apart on an atomic cellular level. And this is where their nervous system comes in, right? So, and it's okay to, again, it's okay to not know it all. We're not meant to know it all. And if we did, we wouldn't be here on this earth plane. Okay. So we are here on this school to learn. And we are here to transition the earth plane to its next vibrational energy and frequency and consciousness. Now, if we are fumbling in everything that we do, then we're not going to be able to connect to that higher level of us, of earth. And we won't go with her in that, in anything. Business is about energetics, just like having a relationship with yourself or others is. When we start to figure that out, and yet it's simple, yet there's many layers to it, just like a tree. And I'm going to use a lot of nature because people understand that, because there are mechanics and the art and science of nature, just like there is with business. So we need to understand, okay, what is working for me, what is unique for me, and what can I take out? And my clients want that uniqueness. They want the solitude. They want an individual who will take them deep. They don't want big crowds. They don't want the noise. They don't want the artificial emotions. They don't want the scarcity. They're here to lead with empathy and empowerment. And that's my job. That is my business. And I know that from the deep heart core of my business model. That's where I need to lead my people. And I don't need to go outside to look for someone totally who knows nothing about what I'm doing or doesn't even feel what I'm doing and try to convince them that this is the right thing for them. I don't need to do that. That's beyond the scope of who I am as a business energetics individual.
When you look ahead to the next 6 to 12 months, what goals do you have for your work and for your business?
I'm going through a period of evolution and growth right now, another one. After all of the time that I've been here, this year is really thrusting me forward into another awakening on the path of devotion, but also on my path in building what it is that I need to continue to build, which I started another lifetime ago. I'm building more community who really has loyalty to each other and continuing on this path of getting more and more people deeper into their heart and soul, because they won't be fumbling as much anymore. Now that AI is in play, people don't even know their own energy, and that's scary. So it's even bigger. My mission is even bigger than it was a year ago. So I am super focused on continuing to find the golden individuals who are leading with empathy, compassion, lightness to the next chapter of humanity and earth, so that our species becomes who we are meant to become.
What do you think it's going to take to get there in terms of building the community that you intuit or you have that vision or that feeling for?
Oh boy. So I'm intentionally pausing to make this really clear. It's going to take for me to be as resilient in my heart and to continue to speak the high vibrational language that I do every day, and to continue to teach uh, from a place that comes just instinctual from the time I was born. You know, I have to get people back to their roots, back to being human again, because there's a sense that I'm feeling and knowing. I even see it, that people are turning into these robots. They're just doing without even knowing. And it's having these conversations on podcasts like this to help people to listen to the energy and to understand that we are not robots. We are not going to match Amazon, or we're not going to match Tesla, or, the big conglomerate companies that are out there. We're going to have to put our own personal signature on it, and that needs to be enough.
What feels hardest about that? Whether it's that specifically, the stuff that you just articulated for what it's going to take for you to how to continue to show up and maintain your, this is, of course, a simplistic way of saying what you just said so beautifully and eloquently, the integrity of who you be, your mission, your work in the face of modern crisis of, spiritual self and stillness and however you want to describe it. So what feels hardest about that, or in general, just most unclear or most uncertain about the entrepreneurship building side of maintaining what you just articulated?
People are going to have to be comfortable with change. I'm going to have to be comfortable with changing who I am, and turning the pains back into purpose, turning the traumas into our own triumphs. And we're going to have find a deeper, what is that saying of uncovering the diamond under the rubble? That's how we're going to have to manage this, because the more and more other types of intelligence start to come forward, we're going to have to really figure out who we want to be in the world and how do we want to lead. Those are super important, because you can't not figure out a course. You cannot figure out how much you want to make. You cannot figure out how you want your family life unless you really know who your identity is going to be first. And you can change. That's great. We welcome that. But the point is there's a lot of closed hearts. They're afraid of being different. And we really have to be different, because the God source makes us a different signature within each of us. We might have similarities, but we all have a different signature. And I know this through all my studies with numerology and sacred geometry of, the ancient mystics. It's, it's very apparent, from our ancestors, that we really need to understand that we are all different, but yet we can come together with certain ways, like communication and through the heart and through our soul. Everybody can recognize our signature. And if you don't know who your soul is, then you're not going to really know how to lead your business. You're going to constantly fumble.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's the vision that came to me as you were speaking is like a butterfly inside of the cocoon or the chrysalis, whichever is like the technically accurate term. It's not chill in there. So like having the ability to, like what you said, navigate the discomfort of evolution, transformation, change. It's not to keep things from changing. It's not to make it easy. It's to decrease the amount of harm and suffering through something that is inevitably going to be hard.
Yeah.
But
Both
that's
you and
what
I are mothers, right?
totally, totally. And we talked about this before we started recording. Like you said, the diamond in the rubble, the diamond in the rough, whatever that phrase is. They're the most, let me see how to articulate this. The things most living for in this life come through hardship.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
wisdom. The wisdom comes through hardship, real lived experience. You can't gain wisdom by sitting reading a book. You have
No.
to actually live it. You can get some distinction, sure, but you have to actually go through it. True masters alive in this lifetime have been individuals who have been willing to be in beginnership over and over again and learn.
Yeah.
That is what creates mastery. That is what creates true, authentic transformation. All of the stuff that you're talking about, that you stand for, that I stand for, that our community of people that are really walking the walk and are the real deal about the work that they do. We know this to be true. Everything good worth living for comes through discomfort, comes through being out of your comfort zone, comes through going through hard, real things. But what we can do is similar to what you were saying, I think, or at least it's how I heard it. we can decrease the amount of harm that's caused during that, right? Even think of the addiction rates, the suicide rates, the mental health crises. That's what we can address.
Yeah.
We can decrease the amount of harm that's caused during a collective awakening, like we're going through a collective dark night of the soul. We can't take that part away, but we can absolutely decrease the amount of harm, increase the amount of possibility, and, do all the things that we can do. So yeah, everything that you said, I fully get.
Yeah, it's we got to remember that even though we play in all different realms, right? We got to really stay clear on our identity, and it's not just a name. It's not just the body. It's much bigger than that. And I think many of us feel lost in navigating that. It's a big soup, and you have to find your noodle, and the one that works for you. And I don't know. I see it been in many different corporate worlds and spiritual worlds and all kinds of worlds, business wise and beyond. And each one has its different flavor. You got to find which one really, really sings to you, which really opens you up to your greatness. Because, I've been a Pilates instructor and an interior designer in the past. It's like something's a little bit missing here. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe I can be, really good at these. But then in the end, when I dissect it all, it's like, would I stay here and do this to the nth degree? No. So I have to go out and find that particular niche that's going to work for me. That's how I see it.
And last question before we wrap up today. If you could wave a magic wand and have one thing solved or fixed for you in your building process, what would it be?
Again, I go back to community. It's the people finding my community, the people that really can trust this. And unfortunately, in today's society, a lot of people just don't trust. So that makes it really difficult for me to get in to people's hearts, unless that you have a certain seeing, and then maybe you're seeing. It's not even guaranteed. You can flop even then. I've spent, a lot of money, figuring that one out. But when I just let go of all of that, I need, this type of platform, and I need this type of course, and I need this type of website and all that type of stuff. No, I need to be me, and I need to do me. So the more I show up, the more that community is just magnetized within me. And it's just like, I don't have to work so hard. Energy is expensive, right? So we want to make sure that we are really in us so that we do not expel and cost ourselves thousands and millions of dollars to get where we need to go. So just really be honest with yourself what community really, really works for you. So community is my biggest thing right now.
Julianna Rose, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, if any part of this resonated, you're in the right place, please reach out. I want to hear from you. And if you want to reach Julianna Rose directly, the links to her website, email address, and her Facebook are in the show notes. Thank you again. And to everyone else, thank you for listening. And we'll see you for the next episode of Ren Behind the Practice.